Good morning, Virgo. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you are doing really, really well. It's Anna from Virgo. The waiting ends soon, and what arrives isn't small, it's magnificent. Stay here because I need you to understand what overdue actually means for your timeline. Overdue implies debt. The universe owes you, not in entitled sense, not in I'm owed because I exist sense, but in balancing sense, in cosmic accounting sense, where what you've endured, what you've survived, what you've given without receiving equivalent return, all of that creates energetic imbalance that reality itself moves to correct, that life itself compensates for through delivering experiences so unexpectedly beautiful, so improbably perfect, so beyond what you dare to hope for, that when they arrive, you'll barely believe they're real. You'll keep waiting for other shoe to drop, for disaster to balance the miracle, for loss to follow gain, because your nervous system has been conditioned by scarcity, by disappointment, by pattern of things going wrong more often than they go spectacularly right. But no shoe drops this time. No disaster follows. The miracle stands alone, unburdened by karmic cost, unaccompanied by suffering meant to teach you appreciation through contrast. This is pure gift, pure grace, pure cosmic correction of imbalance that's existed too long. You've been waiting, not passively, not sitting around expecting universe to deliver without effort from you. You've been working, trying, showing up, investing energy into building life you want, into becoming person you're meant to be, into healing wounds and developing gifts and doing the actual work that growth requires. But despite effort, despite showing up, despite doing everything quote unquote right, the breakthrough hasn't come. The manifestation hasn't appeared. The reward hasn't materialized in proportion to investment. That gap between what you've given and what you've received, that's the overdue part. That's the debt. And debts accumulate interest. What's coming isn't just what you're owed based on what you've invested. It's what you're owed, plus interest, plus compound returns, plus multiplied blessings, because universe doesn't pay debts at face value, doesn't deliver exactly what's owed and call it even. Universe overpays, compensates extravagantly, delivers abundance that exceeds what strict accounting would require because cosmic generosity operates differently than human transactional thinking. Here's what unexpected miracle looks like when it finally arrives after being overdue for longer than felt fair. First characteristic, timing that seems random but is actually perfect. The miracle doesn't arrive when you expected it, doesn't come when you were begging for it, when you needed it most desperately, when having it would have prevented suffering you ended up experiencing. It comes after you've stopped demanding it, after you've released attachment to specific timeline, after you've made peace with possibility it might never come and decided to be okay anyway, to build good life regardless of whether this particular dream manifests is less than has home. Zero hash is greater than. This timing isn't cruelty, isn't universe withholding until you stop wanting. It's precision. It's waiting until you're actually ready to receive without destroying yourself with it, without letting it define your worth, without needing it to validate your existence. because you've already validated yourself through surviving without it. The miracle arrives when you're strong enough to hold it, wise enough to appreciate it, grounded enough to not be destabilized by a sudden shift from lacking to having what you've wanted for so long. You'd almost forgotten what wanting felt like underneath the resignation. Your miracle is coming now or soon, because now is when you're ready. Not before, not when you thought you were ready but weren't. Now, when readiness is genuine, when receiving won't destroy you, when having what you've wanted can actually enhance life you've built rather than becoming life itself, rather than being thing you center everything around because you waited so long and sacrificed so much that miracle becomes idol, becomes obsession, becomes thing you worship instead of thing you enjoy, thing you're grateful for, thing that adds richness to already rich existence. Second characteristic, form that surprises you. You've been imagining what the miracle would look like, creating mental pictures, deciding how it would arrive, what it would be, who would deliver it. And the actual miracle, when it comes, looks different than your imagination, not worse, often better, but different. Different enough that you almost don't recognize it as the thing you've been waiting for is less than has hone. Zero hash is greater than because it's wearing different clothes, arriving through different door, presenting itself in package you didn't expect and didn't know to look for. Stay alert, stay open. Don't reject miracle because it doesn't match your vision. Don't dismiss opportunity because it's not the specific opportunity you were watching for. Don't say no to blessing because blessing is disguised as something ordinary, something that doesn't initially appear miraculous until you engage with it and discover that ordinary thing opens into extraordinary experience. That simple beginning leads to complex unfolding. That small door opens into vast space you couldn't see until you stepped through threshold. Third characteristic, it changes multiple things simultaneously. Single miracle, multiple effects. The thing that arrives, the thing that shifts, the thing that finally manifests after all this waiting doesn't just improve one area of life. It creates cascade, ripple effects that touch everything. Financial miracle creates relational opportunities because new financial position puts you in different spaces with different people. Relational miracle creates professional opportunities because a person you connect with knows people, opens doors, facilitates introductions. Creative breakthrough creates spiritual deepening because creating at that level requires accessing something beyond conscious control, beyond technical skill, beyond anything you can force. Don't compartmentalize the miracle. Don't limit it to single domain. Let it be what it wants to be, which is often bigger than you imagined, more expansive than you dared hope, touching parts of your life you didn't even know needed touching, is less than hash-hone. Zero hash is greater than. Healing wounds you didn't realize were still bleeding, opening possibilities you'd stopped believing were possible for someone like you, with your history, with your limitations, with your circumstances that seemed to make certain dreams unreachable. This reflection invites you to consider, if miracle arrived tomorrow in form you didn't expect, would you recognize it? Or would you be so focused on the form you're watching for, that you'd miss what's actually being offered. Let me address what beginning of dream come true means versus end of journey. The miracle isn't finish line, isn't culmination where you finally arrive and then coast forever in achieved perfection. It's beginning. It's door opening into new chapter that has its own challenges, its own growth requirements, its own journey that you couldn't access until miracle created entry point. This matters because expectations shape experience. If you expect miracle to solve everything, to make life easy from here forward, to eliminate all struggle and challenge and difficulty, you'll be disappointed when new challenges appear, when miracle creates new responsibilities, when having what you wanted turns out to require maintenance, attention, skill development you didn't have to develop while waiting. But if you understand miracle as beginning, as invitation into bigger life that requires bigger you, as opportunity to play on larger field with higher stakes and greater demands on your capacity, then when challenges come, you won't interpret them as miracle failing or universe taking back what was given. You'll recognize them as part of journey that miracle initiated, as growth edges that come with expansion, as learning required to sustain what you've received and to continue building on foundation that miracle created. Dream come true doesn't mean difficulty ends, means difficulty becomes meaningful, becomes chosen, becomes challenge you're willing to face because you're facing it in service of something you actually want, something that matters deeply, something worth struggling for. Because struggle leads somewhere you genuinely want to go, rather than being pointless suffering that serves no purpose except teaching you to endure. This is upgrade, massive upgrade. From suffering that means nothing to challenge that means everything. From enduring because you have no choice to striving because you've chosen this path, this dream, this miracle, that opened door you're now walking through with full awareness that walking through means committing to journey, not just receiving gift and then being done. Fourth characteristic, it requires you to grow into it. Miracle arrives, but you're not automatically fully capable of handling it perfectly. You have to grow, have to develop, have to become person who can sustain what miracle initiated. And that growth is part of the gift, part of the dream come true. Because who you become through rising to meet what miracle demands, that version of you is part of what you've been waiting for, is part of the overdue compensation universe, is delivering. You don't just get the thing, you get to become a person who has the thing, who lives the life, who inhabits the reality that includes miracle as normal rather than as impossible fantasy is less than has home. Zero hash is greater than. That transformation, that becoming, that's sometimes more valuable than the miracle itself, because miracle might be temporary, might be lost, might change form, but who you become stays with you, travels with you, remains yours regardless of external circumstances. This reflection invites you to consider, what version of yourself will you need to become to fully receive and sustain the miracle that's approaching? Now let's talk about the specific domains where miracle might manifest, because unexpected doesn't mean completely random, doesn't mean it could be anything with equal probability. Your life has been creating conditions for specific miracles based on where you've been investing, where you've been hoping, where you've been experiencing overdue imbalance between effort and result. If you've been investing in creative work without seeing breakthrough, miracle likely manifests as sudden recognition, opportunity, collaboration, or monetary success that seemed impossible last month and is undeniable next month. Years of work suddenly seen, suddenly valued, suddenly compensated in ways that make continuation sustainable where it was barely sustainable before, where you were considering quitting, where giving up felt increasingly rational. If you've been investing in healing yourself, doing therapy, doing shadow work, doing uncomfortable growth that shows no immediate external results, miracle manifests as internal shift so profound it changes how you experience everything. Suddenly you're not triggered by things that used to destroy you for days. Suddenly you're responding rather than reacting. Suddenly you're choosing differently because you've become different, and that difference creates different outcomes, different relationships, different life that reflects new internal state. If you've been investing in showing up for others, supporting, giving, caring without reciprocation that matches what you pour out, miracle manifests as person or people who finally show up for you with same quality of presence and care you've been giving. Relationship that's actually reciprocal, community that actually supports, people who see you, value you, contribute to your life proportionally to how you contribute to theirs, instead of taking endlessly while giving minimally. If you've been investing in building something professionally while struggling financially, miracle manifests as sudden income increase, opportunity, client, contract, position that changes your economic reality from barely surviving to actually breathing, actually having margin, actually being able to make choices based on what serves you rather than just on what pays enough to keep you afloat. Your miracle takes form related to where you've been planting seeds that haven't sprouted yet, where you've been watering ground that's shown no visible growth, where you've been faithful to process even when process seemed futile, where you kept going despite seeing no evidence that going would eventually lead to arriving. This reflection invites you to consider, where have you been overinvesting without seeing returns? And what would miracle look like in that specific domain is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Let me address the fear that comes with this message. Fear of hoping, fear of believing. Fear of letting yourself want again after wanting has led to disappointment so many times that wanting itself feels dangerous, feels like setting yourself up for pain. I understand the fear. I'm asking you to feel it and hope anyway. Not reckless hope that ignores reality, not toxic positivity that denies pain. Grounded hope that acknowledges difficulty while remaining open to possibility that difficulty might end, that struggle might yield to ease, that waiting might actually culminate in receiving what you've been waiting for. You've protected yourself through not hoping, through expecting nothing. so disappointment can't hurt you. Through lowering expectations until expecting anything good feels naive, feels stupid, feels like something only foolish people do. That protection served you when you needed it. When hope kept getting crushed and crushing was too painful to endure repeatedly, but protection that was necessary then might be prison now, might be keeping you from receiving what's trying to reach you, might be blocking miracle that can't enter through walls you've built to prevent disappointment. Lower the walls, just for a moment, just enough to let possibility in. Not certainty, not guarantee, just possibility. Maybe this time is different. Maybe the waiting is actually ending. Maybe the overdue compensation is actually arriving. Maybe you get to be a person who has dream come true rather than person who dreams about dreams coming true but never experiences the actual manifestation. What if it's real? What if this message is accurate? What if miracle is actually approaching and your work is simply staying open enough to recognize it when it arrives, to receive it when it's offered, to say yes when yes is appropriate response? Risk the hope. Risk the disappointment if I'm wrong. Risk being foolish if this turns out to be just another instance of wanting something that doesn't come. Because what you risk by hoping is temporary disappointment. What you risk by not hoping is missing miracle because you're too defended to see it, too closed to receive it, too convinced nothing good can happen that when good actually happens, you reject it as impossible, as too good to be true, as something that must have catch or must be temporary. So why bother engaging? Stay open, stay receptive, stay willing to be surprised by grace. You're overdue for unexpected miracle. This is just beginning of dream come true. The waiting is ending. What arrives next exceeds what you've been imagining. Prepare yourself, not through anxiety or through trying to control, through openness, through readiness, through willingness to receive what you've been waiting for and to grow into person who can sustain it. The miracle is coming. Maybe it's already here, disguised as ordinary thing you haven't recognized yet. Look closer. Look with eyes that expect grace rather than eyes that expect disappointment. You're about to be surprised, beautifully, powerfully, undeniably. Let it happen. Let yourself have it. Let the dream begin becoming true.